Hey, what's up guys? I'm Soda Pop, this is the left pedal, and today we're going to be swapping out the gauge cluster in my Datsun 280zx. Now, this is actually a really cool project. Let me tell you why. So, if you live in America and you own a Datsun 280zx or various other cars from the late 70s or early 80s, you may have noticed that your speedometer only goes up to 85 miles an hour. Now, clearly this car is capable of going over 85. Now, obviously I was not alive yet when this car was built in 1979, so correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've read, the government back then hated everything fun, just like they do now. It was legally required for the Speedo to top off at 85. That law is stupid, so in the name of freedom, today we're going to swap in this gauge cluster. And if you can see, the Speedo actually goes to 130 miles an hour on this one. Let's get to work. You know, normally it's nice to have a beer when you're working on your car, but today I've got a iced mocha coffee, like a real man. Alright, so before we get started, I do want to say that I don't actually know which model S130s came with the 130 mile per hour speedometer. I don't know if it's like a specific year or if this is imported. I don't know. I got this one from a guy on Facebook. So if you do know that information on which 280zx came with the 130 mile per hour speedo, please let me know in the comments. I'd actually really like to find that out. Anyways, I've talked enough, let's get to work. Alright, so first things first, disconnect the battery. I already did that, so now we're going to start taking off the steering wheel. So as you can see, this is not the factory steering wheel. I won't spend too much time talking about how to take it off because it's probably not the same as yours. With the factory one, you're going to need to pull the rubber off over the horn, and it's a little bit more difficult, but it shouldn't be hard at all. So to get the plastic steering wheel trim off, there's a few Phillips head screws. You just stick the screwdriver in there and pull them out. So this top part of the steering wheel trim has some wires coming out of it. They run underneath the dash, and you just have to reach down there and squeeze these two little prongs and it'll just pop right out. Now back here you'll see two little screws holding the gauge cluster in place. You just gotta kind of maneuver a screwdriver in there and pull those out. This one's easier to get to if you push the blinker up like that. The other one's a little harder to reach, but it shouldn't be a problem. There we go. Then we've got two screws at the top of the gauge cluster, but I seem to be missing one, so one screw at the top of the gauge cluster. So there's a little screw right here that will allow you to pull the rest of that off. Alright, we're just gonna let this hang right here. Now if you have one of these dash covers, you're going to have to pull the whole thing off because it'll get in the way of pulling out the instrument cluster. And then you gotta kind of wiggle this guy out, which is easier said than done. Alright, so this is a little harder than it looks. What I have done is used a flathead screwdriver to kind of lift the top of the dash up, because the clips on the top of the gauge cluster are getting caught on the dash. I'm trying to be careful because I know this is a 40-year-old car. A lot of the plastic is brittle. So, patience is key here. All right. Yeah, I don't think the cables are gonna let us pull it out any farther than that, so we're gonna go ahead and disconnect those. So if you look back here, I don't know if you can see it, there's a Speedo cable, which I've already pulled, that just twists off, and then there's some more wires, and I think they all just come off by hand. Alright, there we go. One more. There we go. So that was officially more difficult than expected, but it's out of the car now. Alright, so I'm just gonna be honest with you. The video is probably gonna make this look easier than it was. So let me show you the back of this so that you are not going in blind like I did. So you're gonna have 4 cables to disconnect. You have one on the back of the Speedo, obviously. You just twist that one and pull. You have one clip connected to this clip right here. That one's easy, you just squeeze the sides and pull. Another clip similar to this one right here, you also squeeze the sides and pull, but that one's a little more difficult. And then a big round one right here. If you did it right, your interior should look like a total wreck. So here we've got the old one and the new one. Now I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but the glass on the old one is in significantly better condition than the glass on the new one. So we're going to be swapping the glass between the two. We're also going to be putting this dash trim onto the new one. On another note, the new one is missing the tabs on top except for this one half a tab, whereas the old one does have them. So we're basically going to have to take both of them apart and cherry pick the best parts from each. So first thing we're going to do is pull off this red plastic. This screw is making all sorts of noises. That's nice and rusty. I don't know if you could hear that. I think I had a big turbocharger. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and suggest when you're taking this apart, take pictures of where the screws go. Luckily for me, I'm filming all of it, so I'll be able to see. So 4 Phillips head screws, and then there's 2 clips on top. Someone's doing donuts outside. Alright, after you get the 4 screws out, there's 2 metal clips on top. Woo! Okay. And this should pop right out. There we go. The rest of my interior is black. Obviously this is red. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw a coat of black paint on this off camera and let it dry while we're finishing up. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull off the glass and this plastic bezel from the 130-mile speedometer. The reason I'm doing the new one first is because if I've learned anything from working on automobiles, it's that you should never assume a part works until you get it in the car and see it working. So if I'm gonna break one, I'd rather break the new one. Nice. Alright, now we're gonna do the same thing with the old gauge cluster. There we go. Alright, so one interesting thing that I'd like to note is that the odometer on the old one has one more digit than it does on the new one. So I guess my car has gone from 214,000 miles to 41,000 miles. Science. So now all we got to do is put the old bezel back on the new gauge cluster, and we should be ready to put it back in the car. Gonna be really careful here, don't want to break these pins off. There we go. All right, I think we're ready. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a quick little wipe down. Get some of these water spots off. Yeah, that's way better. All right, so here's my freshly painted plastic bezel. We're gonna put this onto the gauge cluster and then stick it back in the car. Alright, so we're gonna take our instrument cluster and this isn't gonna be fun. Okay. Alright, so all the cables are in. Now we just gotta slide this bad boy back into place. I think that's good. I think. Alright guys, well that's about all there is to it. This was a fun little project. I think this was a cool first project to do in my brand new garage. I know that we haven't been making videos for quite a long time. I know this is the first time you guys have seen the Datsun in quite a long time. But we are officially back with the left pedal season 2. We got new videos for you every single week. Got new Datsun content coming up, and within either the next video of the Datsun build or the video after that, we are going to be doing the transmission swap. So get ready for that. Get ready for all the new stuff we have coming. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check us out next week. All right.